Mr. Beans and Carl. Birthday surprise. A McKoy Vision production.
It was a crisp autumn morning in Syrupshire, and Mr. Beans adjusted his pocket watch, noting that it was precisely 10 o'clock, a fine hour for a spot of tea and a read of the Gentleman's Gazette. But as he settled into his favorite armchair, Carl, the pigeon with a knack for chaos, burst through the window and landed squarely on the teapot. "Beans?" Carl squawked, flapping his wings. "Are you ready?" Mr. Beans sighed, folding his newspaper with delicate precision. "Good morning, Carl. Ready for what, exactly?" Carl puffed up with pride, feathers fluffed out like an unkempt duster. "Your birthday surprise, of course." Mr. Beans, normally unflappable, felt a jolt of surprise. "My dear pigeon, it isn't my birthday for another 3 months." Carl tilted his head. No. It's today. I checked the calendar, sort of." Mr. Beans raised an eyebrow. "You mean the flyer on the bakery wall that mentioned Bear Birthday Bash for young Master Theodore?" But Carl was undeterred. Details. A party's a party. And I, being your best friend and personal party planner, have arranged everything." With a sigh that conveyed both resignation and a touch of curiosity, Mr. Beans allowed Carl to lead him outside. They walked through the cobbled streets, past wide-eyed townsfolk who had already heard the tales of Carl's surprises. Finally, they arrived at a small clearing in the town square, decorated with an array of objects that could only be described as unconventional. Streamers made of shoelaces dangled from the trees, and a rickety old table held what looked like an assortment of pies, though each one seemed to be a peculiar mix of leftovers Carl had scavenged. A single lopsided banner flapped in the breeze, painted in bright red letters. "Happy Birthing Day, Mr. Beans." Mr. Beans looked at the scene, clearing his throat delicately. "It's unique, Carl." "Unique. That's exactly the theme." Carl cawed, delighted. "Now on to the games." He flapped toward a wooden barrel labeled Mystery Snails and beamed. "Behold, the Birthday Barrel Bash." Mr. Beans blinked at the barrel, which appeared to have a faint wriggling inside. "Snails, you say?" "Hand-picked from the finest garden beds," Carl assured him. "The game is to guess which snail crawls out first. Loser eats a pie." Carl pointed to a pastry with an alarming mix of ingredients poking out. Mustard, onions, and was that fish? Before Mr. Beans could respond, the townsfolk gathered around, delighted to see what the eccentric pigeon had planned. Everyone cheered as Mr. Beans reluctantly tapped the barrel and let the snails make their slow journey across the makeshift finish line. To his mild horror, Carl's snail won in record time, and with great ceremony, the pigeon plopped a spoonful of mustard pie onto a plate and held it out with glee. "Birthday tradition," Carl squawked, barely containing his laughter. But Mr. Beans, ever the gentleman, took a polite bite, nodding approvingly despite the absurd mix of flavors. "Quite imaginative," he said, drawing chuckles from the crowd. The festivities continued with more of Carl's unusual games. A pin the feather on the goose that left feathers stuck to everything but the actual goose, and a musical chair that used a single squeaky stool, causing Mr. Beans to sit with uncharacteristic haste whenever the music stopped. Finally, as the party began to wind down, Carl flapped onto Mr. Beans' shoulder, sticky and covered in crumbs. "Well, old friend, was it the best surprise birthday you never expected?" Mr. Beans looked at the scene, feeling a warmth not just from the tea Carl had spilled, but from the laughter and camaraderie of the townsfolk around him. He patted Carl on the head. "Indeed, Carl. It was truly unforgettable." And as the townsfolk cheered and Carl's feathers stuck to the leftover pies, Mr. Beans knew he'd never look at birthdays, or pigeons, the same way again.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay tuned for more.